Leah Crawford, an elderly woman, kicked a homeless man while his voice echoed through the park, like he was getting slapped on the head. She filmed the incident and said that she was relieved to be there. The camera kept rolling and Leah smiled, as if she had just won something from the fact that it wasn't hard enough to seriously injure him, but it did make him flinch, and her friends happily giggled in the background. Harold Hawk Dawson, a 69-year-old disabled veteran and Purple Heart recipient, attempted to pull himself up. He fell to the ground, with his face twisted in pain and humiliation after losing his leg. Judge Frank Caprio viewed the footage in his chambers at a later time. Each time he watched it, his expression would become more intense, not with anger, but with something deeper, more heartbreaking. Judge Caprio was aware of a hidden truth about Leah Crawford's mother, Governor Melissa Crawford, that the governor had been keeping hidden for 2 years to uncover. A truth that would prevent Leah from laughing cold and requiring her to see herself and her mother in a different way. The courtroom was filled with people talking and cameras from local news stations positioned on the back wall. The presence of the governor's daughter, the viral video, and the homeless veteran were all well known. If you're over 50 and enjoy justice, please visit the website and watch the video. Judge Caprio was silent and unreadable as he sat at the bench with his hands folded. Having served as a judge for more than 3 decades, he had previously witnessed instances of cruelty. However, filming someone suffering for amusement was something else, something darker. The clerk was ready to start. After nodding, Judge Caprio whispered, "Let's move on." Ms. Ramirez then opened the file with her glasses in a state of practice. Despite her steady and formal voice, she appeared to be somewhat uncomfortable while reading. She cited case number 2026, TR 99214, for the charges against Leah Crawford, which include assault on a disabled veteran, disorderly conduct, harassment, recording harmful content online, and resisting officer orders. Leah Crawford was bored and slouched in the defendant's chair while Ms. Ramirez commented, "Assault," sighed when the charges were read. Judge Caprio instructed Ms. Crawford to remain seated during the reading. Leah sighed and then stood up straight away, as if she was doing something extraordinary for everyone else. Judge Caprio asked her whereabouts, and she responded by saying that her mother was the governor. "She's occupied with managing the state. She mentioned that she would send someone. Yeah, a lawyer or something." Judge Caprio scrutinized her. The courtroom erupted in silence as Judge Caprio raised his hand, urging everyone to do the same. Miss Crawford shrugged. "It's not because of who you are or what you want to do in my courtroom. The case is being heard at 9:55 a.m. on Monday in the Providence Municipal Court, where the defendant is present without guardianship." Judge Caprio mentions parental absence on the record and leaned slightly. Leah's response to the question is, "Do you have a clear understanding of the charges against you?" "I mean, what do you think? I know it's ridiculous, but I made a video for my audience." The term content is used to describe it, and Judge Caprio's observation remained unaffected as people still engage in the act of kicking homeless people for contentment. Leah quickly stated that it was not the same. "It was a dare. My friends challenged me." "The kick challenge, you wouldn't believe it, it's a Gen Z thing." The man who kicked Judge Caprio, who nodded slowly, left law with a shrug. A man named Harold Dawson, who is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, was sitting motionless. After being wounded in combat during 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, he received the Purple Heart and lost part of his left leg as a result of shrapnel. The courtroom went silent. Did Leah's blinking have any impact, as Judge Caprio inquired? "If Leah didn't respond, would you have kicked him in any way?" Judge Caprio pressed for his opinions. Leah Crawford's actions were not solely based on entitlement, but rather on her calculated approach. The intention behind every eye roll, dismissal, and mention of her mother's position was to make her actions seem trivial and unimportant to those who were taking them seriously. She had already learned from her own experiences that she was protected from scandal. PR teams could write apologies or avoid consequences with the right phone calls. Her belief was that Caprio would be like everyone else, another adult who would react in the face of political pressure. Leah made light of the situation, stating that he's homeless and probably doesn't care. "It's likely that he has already forgotten it." Judge Caprio clenched his jaw slightly. Is it accurate to say that someone who is homeless is not deserving of respect? He asked calmly. I'm not sure what this meant. What is your perspective? Leia's body shifted uncomfortably. I meant it wasn't important. It took me just a couple of seconds to get close to him. After grabbing a tablet from his desk, Judge Caprio tapped the screen twice and then glanced at Leia, asking, "Are you there?" The video played. Leia came closer to Harold, laughing, raising her leg and kicking him, while he fell and the camera glared at his face, leaving him confused and humiliated. This was taken out of context. What is the justification for this, according to Judge Caprio, while Leia remained silent? You have uploaded this video, please. You captioned the challenge for the homeless man. Who is the next participant? You added your friends as well. You included laughter emojis, and within the first hour, you had 17,000 views, and Leia's hands started shaking out of sheer enjoyment. Did Judge Caprio have a good time? Then he put the tablet down. Miss Crawford, could you please provide some feedback? Do you have any idea what your mother has been doing on a Tuesday night for the past 2 years? The question landed in her face, causing her to frown and become defensive. Leia stated that she works. I'm not sure what the types of meetings she has scheduled regarding governor affairs, budgets, and policies. Can you explain why Judge Caprio is nodding slowly? I'm curious to know if you have any knowledge of your mother, Judge Caprio asked. The group chat squad scored goals on November 18th at 3:47 p.m. Leia completed the kick challenge. Can you tell me where Madison's video is from about LMA? Layla's post is about to go viral. I'm a legend. If things go wrong, my mom will take care of it. Madison's queen-like conduct was evident as the side door opened without any announcement. The only thing left was an elderly man walking slowly and using a broken wooden cane. Harold Hawk Dawson was dressed in pristine attire, likely a donated item, and his gray hair was combed back. His face had been worn through years of wear, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He sat down in the front row and wiped away his bad leg, wincing at his cane, before folding his hands over his lap. Leia's face turned white as she tried to hide her phone under the table, which would have erased her actions, and Judge Caprio saw the exchange. After waiting for Harold to be done, he raised his hand and said, "Thank you, Mr. Dawson." Harold nodded and confirmed, "Yes, sir." Is there anything you'd like to say before we continue? Harold remained silent for a moment before he spoke, his voice being soft and steady. He said, "I'm not angry with you. I'm tired of being out of sight." The courtroom was filled with people breathing. "I was proud to have served my country," Harold said. "I came back from work with injuries and nightmares, but everything fell apart, leaving me jobless, lost my wife, and stranded on the street with a voice that was barely audible. It felt like I didn't matter at all and people looked through my window." He looked at Leia with emotion, not with anger, but with regret. "When you kicked me, I didn't feel like I had earned the respect of those around me. I thought to myself, I'm just happy," she said. At 10:42 a.m., Harold was silently saying, "I just want you to see me." Judge Caprio paused briefly before turning to Officer Price near the side door, who offered to provide a report. Price, in his early 40s, had the poise and professionalism of someone who had witnessed extreme cruelty and was unwilling to give up. On November 18th at around 3:30 p.m., he began by stating, "I've responded to an issue at Kennedy Plaza. A homeless veteran was being harassed by a group of teenagers, as reported by several witnesses." Leia looked to the floor. Officer Price arrived and found Mr. Harold Dawson sitting against the wall, severely injured and shaken. A group of teenagers were present, laughing and taking pictures with their mobile devices. Miss Crawford was one of them. I inquired about the incident, and she clarified that touching a homeless person was not against the law. The courtroom was filled with people gasping in amazement. I clarified that assault is illegal regardless of the victim's place of residence. Officer Price remarked, "My mother is the governor, sir." Despite my efforts to detain her for questioning, she refused and tried to delete the video on her phone. Judge Caprio's expression dwindled. "Have you retrieved the footage?" "Yes, that is honorable." The content had already been published on social media. We obtained duplicates from various sources. Judge Caprio gave a nod. "Thank you, officer." "Miss Crawford, please put your phone away," as stated by the body cam audio at 3:35 p.m. on November 18th. What's the reason for me not breaking any laws? Officer Price, you assaulted someone, Leah Crawford. Officer Price's lack of a home address is inconsequential. My mother, Leah Crawford, is in charge of this state. If you contact her, she'll let you go. Leah Crawford, if your mother doesn't give you instructions, put your hands behind your back. The transcript was taken down by Judge Caprio, who viewed Leah with a pitying expression. Miss Crawford, he whispered, you keep invoking your mother's name like it is an encroachment on your character, as if you were possessed of political clout. Is it true? My mother is familiar with judges and cops. She has a clear understanding of everyone. Judge Caprio nodded slowly after one phone call. I'm curious about what your mother has been doing on a Tuesday night for the past 2 years, Miss Crawford. I can't help but frown. What exactly is it? On Tuesdays, Judge Caprio mentioned that your mother goes to the Hope Harbor homeless shelter without informing her staff, bringing security, or wearing suits or having name tags. She arrives and Leah's face pales before Judge Caprio opens her mouth. She converses with people. She takes a listen to their stories, assists them in filling out housing applications, and sits with veterans who don't have any other place to go. He paused. The shelter is funded anonymously by her, not through campaign or state funds, but through her own savings of $20,000 per year for the past 2 years. The courtroom erupted in laughter. Leah's tears spilled as Judge Caprio asked if they could stop talking. No, really, he said, and you didn't. The judge responded with a firm and unwavering tone. The governor, Melissa Crawford, walked into the courtroom with a relaxed expression, her face drawn and drained of sweat, as she failed to respond to inquiries. She refrained from sitting and instead observed her daughter. Leah glanced at her mother. The tone of Governor Crawford's words was one of both heartache and frustration. I'm here for you, but I don't mean to shield you. I've got the right to punish you, she said. Watch this video if you missed Judge Caprio. Voicemail from Governor's senior aide at 7:22 a.m. Governor, your daughter was involved in an incident. They're bringing charges. I'm aware that you want to be informed before things get serious, but I urge you to watch the video. This is terrible. After a brief meeting with Judge Caprio, he spoke directly to Governor Crawford. Melissa Crawford slowly stepped forward. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at her daughter. I've spent my entire career advocating for veterans like Mr. Dawson, and I have even authored legislation to protect veterans. I have obtained financial assistance for homeless individuals. I endeavored to create a state that treats all individuals with respect. However, her voice broke, and my daughter kicked the homeless veteran out of place. Leah cried out. Mom, I'm sorry, but that's not enough, Melissa stated. Sorry doesn't make the video disappear. It'll be shared in the hundreds of thousands. Mother, I feel ashamed of you. Not because of political embarrassment, but because you showed me that you're not a good mother. I comforted you, but I didn't. Leah murmurs, it's not true, Melissa tells me, and you have to figure that out yourself. She went to Judge Caprio. Your Honor, I'm here to support whatever sentence you feel is fitting. My daughter needs to learn accountability, and she should learn from you as well. Judge Caprio nodded and conveyed appreciation, Governor. He returned to Leah and acknowledged her mother's correctness. It's not enough to say sorry, and you need to demonstrate the significance of your actions, not just to Mr. Despite treating homeless individuals as less than human, Dawson viewed the file in front of him. Judge Caprio's voice was composed and precise, resulting in my ruling. He began by stating that a 16-year-old had filmed themselves beating up a disabled veteran and shared it online for fun. Leah resorted to wiping her face to maintain her composure. Judge Caprio commented, "You mistreated a human being like this, and you used his vulnerability for social media. You ruffled your feathers while he suffered, and you used your mother's position to evade punishment. But I'm going to give you a chance to become someone better." Leah looked up in fear. Judge Caprio announced the sentence. You will serve 150 hours in the community at the Hope Harbor Homeless Shelter and Veterans Outreach Programs. Leah nodded quickly and assured that she would serve meals, clean, and listen to people's stories, seeing them as human beings. All right, I will. You will write a public apology, Judge Caprio stated. It was not an apology issued by the media nor written by lawyers. Your plan is to share it on all social media platforms where you posted the video, and you will provide $1,500 in compensation for medical expenses and pain and suffering to Mr. Dawson. Sir, you are going to compose a 10-page essay on dignity, service, and privilege, which you will read aloud in court for the next 6 months. I am cognizant of the fact that you will meet with the Providence Homeless Support Project every month and attend their educational sessions to gain knowledge about the root causes of homelessness, as stated by Judge Caprio. You will come to understand that individuals like Mr. Dawson are unhappy. They are human and deserve your respect. On November 24, 2025, Harold Dawson was ordered to complete 150 hours of community service and received an apology from Hope Harbor Homeless Shelter and Veterans Outreach on social media platforms, along with a 10-page statement read aloud in their monthly meetings. The incident must be permanently erased from social media. A follow-up hearing is scheduled for the 24th of May, 2026. Judge Caprio stated that Miss Crawford is not being punished. Your mother tried to teach you through her example, but you didn't see it coming, so you'll learn from her. Harold looked at him. Mr. Dawson, do you have anything to say? Harold stood up slowly. Leia's expression softened as he stared at him. I don't want you to hate yourself. You have to do better. Leia nodded in agreement, saying, I will see people, sir. Harold sat back down. Judge Caprio closed the file. We're done with it now. Leia arrived at Hope Harbor on Tuesday night, but her mother left before she could arrive. This was a task she had to perform alone. Upon entering, the shelter had a scent of soup and coffee. A woman with sour-eyed eyes gazed at her at the entrance. You must be Leia, she said. She was Susan. Thanks for letting me volunteer, La said with a smile. Leia's eyes widened with gratitude. Every Tuesday, Leia visits for 2 years and is one of our most dependable volunteers. She felt a crack in her chest. Perhaps she's ashamed or regretful. Susan guided her to the kitchen where a dozen volunteers were preparing dinner. In the corner, Harold was chopping vegetables slowly with his good hand, while Leia's stomach dropped. Mr. Dawson, your assistant, is here, Susan said softly. He looked at him with a guarded look, but his expression was not rude. Hello, Leia, Susan's voice shook. I'm here to lend a hand if you need me. Harold contemplated her. He then handed her carrots. Once you've kicked me, he said, and I'll tell you why. La paused briefly before replying. My thoughts are more important than my emotions. I didn't think so, Harold nodded. You are here now, folks. That's something. Leia Crawford has fulfilled 98 of her 150 service hours. The staff has reported a remarkable shift in attitude. Harold Dawson has personally requested that the woman continue working with the Veterans Meal Program. A public apology was issued and received well. The mother is still volunteering with her daughter on an occasional basis. Within the next 5 months, Leia was able to uncover her mother's long-standing teachings, including the names, stories, and histories of people like James, a former teacher who lost his life in medical bankruptcy, as well as Rosa, who had been working as an emergency nurse for 10 years and was now suffering from PTSD. Despite Marcus' previous employment as an engineer and knowledge of his previous occupation as a mechanic, his sobriety from alcohol and drug addiction, and his desire to save money for living quarters, Leia inquired why he continued to volunteer at this location. Harold paused as he realized that their people had more than enough to share when they had little. Leia remained silent for a moment. Harold acknowledged that I had treated you as if you were nothingness. You've demonstrated that actions are more meaningful than words. Her mother arrived that night, and they both worked together in a comfortable silence. Melissa then embraced her daughter in the parking lot. Leia stood together in the cold November air, feeling a sense of comfort and accomplishment. She acknowledged her mother's efforts to teach her, but now she regrets the delay and thinks it was just the start of something more important to her. The importance of service, dignity, and humanity was evident on May 24th when the courtroom was packed. Susan made an appearance. With a new cane on his back, Harold walked confidently. The back rows were crowded with volunteers, both quiet and supportive. Judge Caprio entered and asked for everyone to sit. Sit down, he said. Leia was viewed by him with a distinct, unassuming, and present demeanor as she stood up, gazed at her closely, and kept her gaze up. Judge Caprio declared, You've fulfilled your time commitments. Leah nodded and acknowledged your apology, restitution, attendance at your meetings, and your essay. She retrieved 10 handwritten pages and proceeded to the podium with a shiver in her head. At 6 months ago, she stated, I kicked off an organization for 10 views. I thought people were happy with me. I believed my privilege shielded me from repercussions. She paused momentarily. I was mistaken in every aspect. Leah perused for 15 minutes. She recounted Harold's service, the shelter residents she had encountered, her mother's unassuming role as a shining example, and learning to appreciate people before the courtroom began to quiet down. Eventually, Harold started clapping. The shelter volunteers joined in, followed by everyone else. Leah's eyes were filled with tears. Judge Caprio expressed gratitude with a smile. Well done, Miss Crawford. The case has been closed, and Leah walked over to Harold without extending her hand, only waiting. After gazing at her, Harold opened his arms and smiled. Leah embraced him in tears. Thank you for giving me a chance. You deserved it, Harold whispered. Keep going. Crawford then approached Judge Caprio. She shook his hand and thanked him for teaching her something that I couldn't. She learned her lessons herself, and it's just that she had the right setting, Judge Caprio said with a smile. We'll continue to volunteer together. They require you. The warmth of the sun was reflected in Leah and her mother's eyes. Harold walked alongside them, no longer visible. Mr. Dawson, do you fancy a ride? Harold asked. I do. They walked side by side, 3 individuals who had learned to see each other as individuals rather than just being themselves. Judge Frank Caprio watched them depart from the court. He pondered over privilege and pain, visibility and dignity, the events that ruin us, and the service that transforms us. He contemplated justice, the kind that doesn't just punish, but one that also changes. If you're over 50 and interested in genuine justice, this is a must-subscribe, providing storytelling and education, not legal advice or actual judicial records.